91 FM. BBC Radio 2.
Greetings UK and beyond. My name's Courtney Pine. Welcome to the show that I call the Jazz Crusade. Thanks to the mighty Humphrey Littleton for the great music. Right about now, it's time for the latest slices of jazz from Wallace Rooney, Jamie Cullum, and Grover Washington's ex-bassist Gerald Veasling. There's an old school classic track and the CD of the week. Our special guest is the legendary David Bowie, talking about jazz. So if you're up for it, you know I am. Let the jazz begin. It's a Jazz Crusade on BBC Radio 2, and we can now link to the USA. Where waiting to speak with us is David Bowie. Great to have you on the show, David. How are you keeping, man?
Thanks very much for asking, Courtney. I'm doing fine. I've been working out a lot this last year, and I'm back on course, I think.
Good. All right, let's talk about the saxophone now. Is it true that your first instrument was the saxophone?
Well, I'm not sure if the saxophone is my first instrument, but I've tortured one a few times, specifically an alto, which was the first one that I ever had. I saw the Little Richard band in a film called, I think it was called Disc Jockey Jamboree, and he had a really large sax lineup,
yes,
all wearing white suits. So I'm not sure if it was the white suit or the saxophone that got me first, but I decided I really, really wanted to join Little Richard's band when I grew up. I was about 12 years old, something like that, between 10 and 12.
Now tell me about the first instrument you actually had.
I got my dad to help me out on the hire purchase system, 5 shillings a week, and to get me an alto sax. And what we did, we went up Tottenham Court Road, and there was a big musical instrument store up there.
Yeah.
I chose one that was it was called white plastic. I think it was made by Selmers, and it was the same kind that Johnny Dankworth played.
Yeah, you had one of those.
That's where it all came to great tragedy for the jazz world.
Can you remember hearing jazz for the first time?
My late brother introduced me to jazz, really. I remember the first 2 albums, they're big favourites of his, and he passed them on to me. One was by the MJQ, and the album was Fontessa,
yes,
which was an Atlantic album. I think it's their first one for Atlantic, and the second one was by a band that really pretty much unknown. It was the George Redmond Group. They were part of the West Coast Cool Jazz. Was a track called Babette on that album. It's called Moods in Jazz, and the baritone player on that was Bob Gordon, who was pretty well known around the time. Actually, you can still get that album now, because I lost my copy and I had to get it again. There's a label called VSOP, and it's called Moods in Jazz, and really, really beautiful album. So those are the first 2 jazz albums I'd really heard.
And what about gigs you went to see on your trips around the world? Anything interesting?
Over in the States, the first 2 major jazzers that I saw in the very early 70s was Charlie Mingus at the Village Gate, which was stupendous, and Stan Kenton at the full Stan Kenton Orchestra at the White Knight Club in Chicago. And that was really sad, because I think there were more people on stage than there were in the audience. There were really only about 10 or 12 people in the audience, and Kenton was great. He said, bring everybody up to the front. So we all moved up to the front, and they still played like the place was packed, you know, and that was just tremendous. I met Milt Jackson as well in the 80s over in Switzerland, of all places.
Okay.
It was at the Montreux Jazz Festival, and it was wonderful. I had a dinner with Milt Jackson and Quincy Jones and a few other members of their band. I was just like, it was like a fly on the wall thing. I just sat back and listened, and they were talking about a virtual history of jazz. It was an astonishing evening, really memorable for me.
I've got to ask you, you worked with jazz musicians, you worked with pop rock musicians. Do you find there's a difference at all between the 2 stylists?
Well, I tell you, Lester Bowie got a lot drunker than...
Yes.
Got a lot drunker than most rock musicians. It was terrific. I mean, I was working with Nile Rodgers, and we decided that we just couldn't resist. We had to get Lester to work on a few tracks with us. At like 10 o'clock in the morning, man, he was like, the first thing he wanted was a 6-pack, and straight down with him. Let me see. Overall, I was always surprised that jazz musicians were so into the idea of doing rock. Or I guess it's like, it's a real change for them.
Yeah.
But it was always really cool to work with jazz musicians on a rock session, because they really put everything into it.
Yes. What are you listening to at the moment? Do you have an iPod? Are you into technology and all that?
Yeah. Let me see. I'll tell you what I like a lot. It's Matthew Shipp.
Yeah, the pianist Matthew Shipp, yeah.
Yeah, there's a track of his I really like called Rocket Ship. The album's called New Bop.
Yes.
That's right, New Bop. Oh, I'll tell you what I've ordered. Have you heard about the new Dizzy Gillespie Charlie Parker album?
Oh, they've re-released something, have they?
No, this is spectacular.
Okay.
7 12-inch acetates were found, and it runs to about 40 minutes.
Yes.
It's a town hall recording, New York, in June 1945.
Oh, my goodness.
It's probably the very first really major live performance of the Dizzy Gillespie Quintet. Isn't that amazing?
I've got to get that CD. Now, let's play some Matthew Shipp, and we'll talk some more with David in a moment. That's Matthew Shipp and Rocket Ship. It's a Jazz Crusade. Now let's talk some more with David Bowie. What about when you were a teenager? Did you go to Ronnie Scott's?
There was a club locally in Bromley called the Brummel Club. It was the Brummel Court Hotel.
Yeah.
They had a fantastic guy who was the promoter there. I used to see people like Joe Harriott and Sheikh Keane used to play down there. And sometimes I think Sheikh Keane used to read some of his stuff.
Okay.
Oh, it was fantastic. Tubby Hayes, when Ronnie Ross used to play down there.
Yes.
And then you get people like Graham Bond with Dick Extall-Smith.
Wow.
It was just a wonderful place. Anybody went to Ronnie Scott's in London, definitely, or they hit the Brummel Club. The Brummel Club was really cool.
Yeah.
Earlier on, when I was about 12, I phoned up Ronnie Ross because I knew he lived near us in Orpington, and I said, I've just bought a saxophone and I'd like to learn to play. And he said, well, don't teach. And I said, and he said, but were you serious about it? And I said, what? Oh, yeah. He said, how old are you? I said, I'm 12.
Oh, my goodness.
So he said, well, look, come on over on Saturday morning. So I shot over there, got the bus over there on the Saturday morning, and he gave me lessons for about 6 weeks.
Wow.
Which was very cool of him. He wouldn't take money or anything, he was just so cool.
Oh, excellent.
That was a lovely memory to have, actually.
And Ronnie Ross is gone now, and he was one of the greatest British baritone players we've ever had.
I saw at the time, who sort of also became one of my idols, was Jerry Mulligan.
Yes.
And I got to see him at the Madison Square Garden, and Jerry Mulligan was playing with an all-star band, and I got to meet him afterwards, and that was just wonderful.
Listen, I've got to ask you about something, because I get to see many concerts, and I can remember seeing, you've done a few in your time, and I remember seeing you at a Phoenix Festival when...
Oh, God, yeah.
You were playing drum and bass.
That's right, yeah.
And nobody seemed to realise, and I can remember walking through the audience wanting to tell everybody, that's David Bowie playing.
Yeah, nobody had... Well, very few people had a clue. I guess the first couple of rows knew, because they weren't big on lighting in that tent. It was like... which was great. I actually preferred it that way, you know what I mean?
Oh, well, for me, it really worked.
It was great. We thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, we did a few gigs like that, actually, and enjoyed every one of them.
Is there any chance of a jazz record?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I should start losing sleep if I were you. Well, I tell you what, the only way I'd love to do one with you.
Oh, man.
What else?
That's no problem. You work with a phenomenal bass player, Gail Dorsey, and we've worked in a band together. Yes, she's absolutely wonderful. She's great. She's a great jazz bass player as well.
Yes, she is. Yeah, actually, the band is pretty cool in that respect. I mean, there's some very good players. Mike Garson, my pianist, also is a really excellent jazz player.
Yes. You going to be thinking about a new album soon?
Yeah, I started writing already, and it looks pretty weird, so I'm happy.
What are your fans going to be expecting?
Oh, they don't expect anything these days. I think they just sort of, wait and see what I put out.
Yeah.
It's the luck of the draw. I mean, sometimes it works really well and sometimes it's god-awful, but that's the way it goes, and I like that.
If there was one jazz track that really, really moves you, what would it be?
Oh, that's hard, isn't it?
It's a very difficult question.
Or Hog Calling Blues, Charlie Mingus.
Oh, wow.
Now, I saw Mingus, 1972, 73, at the Village Gate. It was just amazing, a wonderful performance.
Yeah. Well, David, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, and here's to more in the future.
Well, likewise, Courtney, and I really look forward to seeing you again, man.
Me too.
This is David Bowie, and I'd like to introduce this wonderful track, Hog Calling Blues, from the album Oh Yeah by Charlie Mingus.